beeswax candles is because I had saved all this wax, because when I was burning candles like this, the natural nature in me said, gosh, this is still, there's a lot of good beeswax to this, and I just couldn't throw it away. So I started this little jar in my pantry. I'll get these little bits of candles like so, and all I did to get them out. Okay, so I took a scissors just like that, and it just kind of pops out. You can even sit this in a little bit of warm water if you wanted to get more out. See, there's another piece. It really pops out easier than you think. I didn't worry about ruining a knife. I didn't ever ruin a knife or a scissors. You just hold it under hot water and it takes off anything that's necessary. Now, the next thing I did was I just chopped that little black part off and I peeled this part off. Okay, if there's a little bit of black on here, like this again, I just took that off. I didn't want any black in my, okay, that's it. It does not ruin your knife. I stuck it under hot water. It's perfectly fine. And I just continued to save any good pieces. If it was a bad piece, anything black got thrown away. This went in a little jar, and when the jar got so full, I stuck it in a bag. This is what I have saved up over the couple months this winter of burning my beeswax candles. And what I did was I just had this little jar in my pantry, and you can see it just says saving beeswax. And every time I would cut that off of a candle and throw away the little bottom tab, because we can't reuse those, we don't want that part that was holding the wick, I would just fill this jar. Once the jar got so full, I would fill the ziploc bag, which was in my craft room, and kind of just waiting until I felt like I had enough, which today is the day. So I was curious to know what 1 pound of beeswax would make. So I did weigh this out, and I have exactly a pound right here. So I'm going to save this for a different time. I'm just going to use this right now. And what we're going to do is we want to use everything that's old when you get to this point, okay? Like I said, I didn't have any problem with the knives. I just stuck them under hot water for a second, and I had no problem getting any beeswax out. This is a different point. I have a very old pan here, so I'm going to put water in here in just a minute, and I'm going to put my beeswax in this container here to melt it. And we'll want to, be careful with this because it is wax and it's going to be hot and it could burn you. And I'm just going to let this melt. And I'm going to keep adding more to it. Okay, so let's get that going. So I got my hot water in here and it is going. That's all you do. And you just do this double boiler style. I'll put that in there. This, again, is an old one. I'm not going to be able to use this again because beeswax does stick to everything. Again, like I say, one little tiny bit on a knife, that's not a big deal. This will be a big deal. So we're just gonna let this heat up. I think this is gonna take a few minutes. I'm just gonna let this go, okay? Now, while that's heating up, I have my jars over here. And now we're gonna put the wicks in our jars while this continues to heat up. Okay, so I'm gonna put the wicks in. I'll show you how I did these a second, do these last 3 while I'm kind of stirring this. So I just turned it down a little bit. Just want to stir to see if it's melting. This is going to take a minute, so we'll have time to put those wicks in while we just do this. And this is looking very good. I just don't want any water to bubble in there. And also I wanted to point out, I see a little black piece in there, so I'm going to cut that out because I don't want any little black wick spot in my thing. So I'll cut that out before I add more, okay? So let's just go back here and let's put our wicks on, which kind of a couple little tips. One is, I think that just to use the glue gun is the easiest. These are just wicks I got off a line. I can leave a link for them. And you just put a little tiny dab of glue on the metal part. Try not to put it on the wick part. And then you just stick it in here in the bottom. And if you need to, and mine didn't stick very well. I had I'm not real sure if I'm happy about that whole hot glue method. But what I do find is that the clothespin works very well to hold it straight. And your wick will bend if you don't hold it straight. These are dipped, so they are very easy to keep straight. That just as far as you keeping it in the middle. It's not quite touching, so I gotta push it down just a little bit more. Want it to touch firmly. And just takes a little bit of play. Now also, I actually added a little bit of tape because I really want to be sure that this thing doesn't move on me when I pour it, and I think that's going to help. So it takes a little, you know, couple minutes to get these wicks on there, but that was really, I feel like, where the most of the work was. So right there, that's kind of it for that one. I think this is going to be a cute jar. I have a cute little lid for it. And this one, this I've learned is kind of what is a favorite size, this or the tea length. I'm just gonna give this a little check here. Again, I don't want any water to boil in there, so I got my water boiling a little hotter than I want it. I'm gonna turn that down. Let me hop back to here. So I have found, what I was mentioning to you is that the smaller jar or tea jar or smaller around tends to work better than something that's bigger around. I feel like it just burns. The candle burns evenly and cleanly all the way to the bottom, burning up most of the wax, which in all honesty is really what I want to happen. I don't want to have a ton of left over, but if I do, I'm sure not going to waste it. Okay, that one stuck pretty good. Put this in here to hold it. In the center, the whole goal is to keep that wick in the center. A little bit of tape on there. Well, that's all it takes to keep that in place. Okay, also you'll notice here, I have it sitting on a cooling rack instead of just the pan. And that is something, again, that I have learned that people say it prevents tunneling. You know, the tunneling from your candles, that prevents your candles from separating, because the whole goal is to get this candle to cool slowly. And then it doesn't pull away from the sides and it doesn't make what people call wet spots. I'm not going to worry about too much of that. I just figured we'll do the basics. We'll get our wick straight. We'll put it on a cooling rack instead of have it on this base on a solid sheet. I'm not going to heat my jars or anything else, but they're not cold. They're just room temp. It's pretty warm in my house right now. Whoops, I'm going to give this one a little glue. Didn't think I was going to, but we'll give it just a tiny bit. Does not take much. Okay. And if you needed this little tip, a fork works great to push that down. Mine really is down good, but I just wanted to show you that in case if your jar needed a little bit of help. That wick centered. It's pretty good. And we're just gonna put some tape over it to keep that clothespin in place. And I still have enough room to pour wax in that jar, I believe. But this one will take me a little extra level-handedness to do. And then now our jars are ready to fill with beeswax as soon as our beeswax is melted. So now it's nearly all melted. I'm going to take it off, or out rather, I should say. This is a parchment. Put parchment down on your surface so that you won't have any spills, okay, on your, or a ripped open piece of, brown bag or some cardboard or something. I just have parchment paper. All right, so I took this out because even though I have a few pieces in there, I don't want this too hot. I don't want this like over hot, but I don't want to, make this less, I don't want to make this more complicated than it is. But supposedly if your wax is like super hot, then you might get a little more tunneling or whatever. I'm not going to worry about all that. Like I said, this is just repurposing something, having fun with it. And my handle's not hot. This is actually the perfect container for candle making, which I just got this container at a thrift store for like $1.50. So now I'm just going to simply pour it in. And actually I'm going to lift my jar a little bit. And I'm just going to get it super level and full, nice about to where I want it. And that's it. Okay, so now they are pretty firm. They haven't sat overnight, but they are very hard. So I think overnight they're gonna do even better. I have one extra jar here, and I just left that here to remind you to put a wick in enough jars. It's kind of hard to know exactly how far your beeswax is gonna go. All my jars were a little different size. A couple of them were the same, but these two, this is bigger and this is far littler. So, but I'm very happy with them. So I'm just gonna take my my clothespins off here. We'll take the tape and the clothespin off. And the wicks are nicely firm there. And I'm super happy to see that just this one here seems to be pulling away a little bit, but overall, I feel like they look very nice. I'm super happy with these, and I still have more beeswax left, so I could still even get a few more candles. So beeswax candles are so expensive that when I look at this, I got 5 candles out of just scrap beeswax. And this size candle, they can go for like $10 to $12 a piece. So this was quite a little savings. I'm really happy with this. And then we have to trim our wicks down. And so you want to leave it, like I'd rather have it a little too high and have to trim it a little bit more later. So I'm gonna, they say at least a 1/4 inch or more. So I'm gonna just trim right here. And like I say, for storage, or in case if I end up giving a couple of these and put a cute tag with it. I'm not being real scientific about this, so I just don't think it's necessary. It might be a little long. And again, I will know if this is too long. If it starts burning really fast or gets a big bubble on a big black, you know, kind of, I forget what they call that, but, you know, build up on there, then you know your wick is a little too long. So yeah, I'm super happy with these. I just think that sitting them out and just having lovely ambiance. They smell wonderful. Beeswax candles that you could use for your home or for giving.